All right, everyone. So, an article from Game Rant is titled "The Penguin Shouldn't Be Necessary Viewing for the Batman Part 2." It was written by Alvar van der Verroot. And I thought this was an interesting story in terms of like, is this something that we should actually look for in the future with movies? And so we're going to read you the key takeaways. We're not going to read you the whole article. You can go read it yourself, but we're going to read you the key takeaways and talk about those. We're going to break down each one. So DC should avoid repeating Marvel's mistake of making movies and TV shows too interconnected. So we'll stop there. So when I was younger, right, and I was watching kind of these Marvel movies, one of the things I never understood as, a kid or as a younger adult was that all of the Marvel movies in the universe, in the MCU, are all interconnected in some way, right? They're all in the same thing, and it's not just that they're all connected; it's that you really can watch them all in a certain order, and there's little bits and pieces that you can take from each that in movies in the future, you would look back and, oh, I remember that from that. And so really the Marvel universe is much bigger. I always figured, okay, you have each Marvel character, and then obviously you have like the Avengers, which those are the ones where everybody's in them. But I figured, okay, you have Iron Man. So from Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, I think there's only 3. If there's another one, I'm sorry. I know he's in the Avengers too. Really those are the only ones you have to watch, right? That's how I always felt. But then you realize, wait a minute, actually Marvel has it where sometimes stuff in Iron Man you should actually have watched some of the other things, or when you're watching the Avengers, you should have watched all the other things about this character to get the full story there. And it's like that makes a lot more sense. And it's a lot of watching. And they're great movies. I love watching them, but it is if you're someone who's just trying to get into the series or something like that, or you're someone who's just like, hey, I want to go see this new Marvel movie. Well, how are you going to catch up with everything that happened, to go see that and to really get the best experience? And so I think what Oliver is saying here is 110% true is, DC, I actually like DC a lot. I kind of like the darker tone, the more realistic tone that DC has over Marvel. Marvel's more cartoonish. DC is very, very just dark, and it's a lot more real. And I kind of like that aspect of it. And I think they should go different in this way too. Okay, so we're going to follow the next key takeaway. Failing to allow for standalone stories can alienate moviegoers who haven't seen related shows. That's another great point. Is, for Batman Part 2, which is what we're talking about here, the only thing you should have to watch is Batman Part 1 because that's a movie, it's one movie. It's so easy. Okay, hey, I want to go see this movie next week. Let me watch Batman Part 1. Perfect. You watch it, you get it, you go see the movie. If Batman Part 2 comes out and it turns out that the Penguin, you have to also watch this entire series, well, now you're forcing yourself to binge a movie and an entire series. Even if you've already seen them, maybe you just want to remind yourself. And it's just, what's the point of it? And I think it's a good way for DC to kind of differentiate themselves, just to say, listen, when we make a Batman series, it is completely different than everything else. And it doesn't mean you can't get a vibe for the setting from other things, but the only thing you need to understand for the Batman series is by watching Batman Part 1. Okay, so the next key takeaway. The Batman Part 2 should not rely heavily on events from the Penguin, allowing each to stand alone. And so I think the key aspect here is rely heavily on events. And why I think that's key is because the heavily part is the part that matters. Meaning, I actually don't mind if you say, okay, we're going to make the Penguin as a way for people that want to dive deeper and really get deep and understand what's going on in this, universe. You go and watch the Penguin, and then you get a deeper understanding. That's fine. If you're just like it's, if they're on parallel paths, that's okay. But it's when the story is really, it's when big parts of the story don't always add up, or jokes that are in the thing are just really talking about the Penguin, and you might not get it if you haven't seen it. I don't mind small Easter eggs, or I don't mind, like, if Batman's walking around in Gotham and it's like, okay, this is, or this part of the movie is the same as in the Penguin, and it's like, oh, okay, I remember that from the Penguin. That's understandable. That's fine, but it's when movies are, so reliant on everything. And like I said, with Marvel, and Marvel's highly successful, not even taking any shots at it. I think they do a fantastic job, and it is awesome that you have this whole universe that is interconnected. But I think DC should split. DC should do their own thing. They shouldn't do the same thing, and you know we'll see if they end up doing that. I just think the problem becomes, and Oliver makes this point in the second one. It does alienate moviegoers. It alienates people from getting into it if they have to sit there and they have to watch 10 movies just to understand the movie that they're going to see now. So thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.